Good day to you all. I hope you're all doing well. Thanks very much for joining us today. I don't know if it's morning, afternoon, wherever you happen to be, appropriate beverage raised, or many of you I know are off diving and on the way to diving. Welcome to the second session of our first ever Community Day online broadcast. We're really excited by the progress from our first session, which we ran 4 hours ago. We had a lot of great input and a lot of great speakers and guests coming by, people from all around the world coming to visit. Most countries on this side of the world being represented, so that was really great. We had a number of good videos. We had Simon Mitchell and Falk Tillman also giving some really nice presentations to us. We had Ryan and GUE Lebanon and Beijing and across the spectrum worldwide. We had Denmark, South Korea, all kinds of people from all over the place. So that was really exciting to see, and we're hoping that things go well also this time around. We have another exciting range of activities for you this time on our second session. And today we're again bringing people from a variety of communities around the world. We're going to have some different speakers and some people conferencing in as we go. Please be sure to pop up your questions as we go along. We'll try to answer any that come, and we do have some dedicated Q&A sections. So those are appropriate periods that we'll be able to try to field your questions. We've got a lot of great things going on in the GUE community, and I hope to foreground some of those things and give some of you a sense and get everything rocking and rolling. Love to be seeing you all in person instead. It'd be awesome if we could go grab a beer afterwards. Maybe we'll have to toast at the end, but this will have to be our next best effort. As many of you know, things are a little challenging around the world. So we're trying to do our best to keep our community together and keep everybody sorted and active and motivated. A couple announcements before I get started and introduce my co-hosts. I wanted to let everyone know and thank Chris Hart. I just actually spent some time with them yesterday. I gave a presentation to their GUE Midwest group, a great group of people over that way. And Chris brought in a great t-shirt design idea that we're using for Community Day. It's the one that you'll see actually in the background when we bring on one of our co-hosts who's helping to organize everything. I also want to mention that Nico, our GUE Next Gen Scholar, we've extended her stay. The COVID crisis really created too many complexities, and so we had her on our last session, and she's doing some lovely work with environmental education for young kids, and we want to really try to help continue to support her. So we're going to take a year pause and allow Annika to continue on through her scholarship. For those of you who know her, she's doing a great job and doing some neat stuff in the world. Also want to mention our GUE Training Council, which was democratically elected. It's our first body in the organization to be democratically elected. 5 representatives from chosen by the instructor corps, 5 by the instructor trainers and evaluators, and 5 by the board of directors. We're all selected to form 15 members, and then plus the training administrators. So 18-member panel that will help GUE make good, wise decisions going forward, help us to be good stewards of the quality that we know you all represent and want to see for the organization. And then my last note is the GUE TV contest is still open for those of you interested. We also extended that a year due to the complexity of people doing video and diving in their various regions around the world. We've got some amazing prizes really in there. It's a great collection of different prizes and activities from a number of good sponsors from Santi and Halcyon and Shearwater, really good group of people in there giving some great prizes. So we hope that you'll join us for that and send in some great videos. And I want to go ahead and bring in my co-host, Dorota and Czerny will join. She is our recreational administrator and on our board of directors, as many of you know. Hello, and then I'd like to also bring in Nico. Hello, Dorota. Welcome. Nice to see you.
Hello, hello. Hello, hello.
And Nico's doing all the hard work. He's doing all the heavy lifting. Real special congratulations and thank you to Nico and Amanda White, who's hopefully sleeping since she's out in the West Coast. She joined us for our first session, but she's likely sound asleep now. But a special thanks to the two of you for the great effort that you put into getting this all organized. There's a lot of activity behind the scenes, a lot of follow-up, a lot of back and forth to get everything ready and rolling. And Nico is going to be busy behind the scenes, jockeying things and keeping them rolling. So we have a great round of activities for everyone, and I just want to jump in and get started. I think first we should go ahead and bring Marcus in, and it seems appropriate on Community Day that we have our community coordinator come on and say a few words about community. Marcus has volunteered for a number of different projects. He's an active GUE instructor helping us organize a number of different activities from online training to community. And Marcus has agreed to act as a liaison between all of the regional community coordinators and help everyone kind of get on the same page. Welcome, Marcus. The last we saw you, the sun was rising. And are you on a ferry right now?
Hi, Jarrod. Yeah, I am indeed. So hopefully you can hear me okay. So last time we spoke, I was on the way to the north coast of Scotland to jump on a ferry and go diving with the GUE Scotland community. And we're now on the ferry, and the weather is still glorious, which is really nice.
Beautiful. I think that sounds like you're having a more fun-filled, active diving day than I am, although I get to talk about diving and see a lot of great people. So it'd be wonderful if you could talk to us for a second about some of the community activities or give us a little sense of how people might get organized as a GUE community. Show is yours, my friend.
Of course. Thanks very much, Jarrod. So for those that didn't dial in for this morning's session, as it was for me, just to reintroduce myself, I'm the community coordinator for GUE, and you can contact me on marcusrose@gue.com if you have any questions or comments or points that you would like to raise in terms of community support within the organisation. As I just mentioned, I'm currently on the way to Scapa Flow to dive World War I wrecks for the week with GUE UK and GUE Scotland, and they're going to dial in a little bit later and just give you a feel for how we're setting up for that week. I also want to reiterate thanks to everybody for organising and taking part in this event. This morning's session was absolutely fantastic. Some great speakers and some great communities out there doing some really good stuff. I think on the back of all the challenges that 2020 have brought us, with COVID in particular, I think it's demonstrated the real need for communities and the real beauty of communities for supporting people as well as divers. But there's been some great initiatives out there, such as online quizzes, online socials, whilst we haven't been able to meet face to face, and lots of informative diving related videos and content as well, which you can obviously find on GUE TV, just to give that a little bit of a plug. And there's a few things going on behind the scenes as well to better support communities. So we're developing an application, and we're also developing some content for GUE.com. That will help coordinate the activity that's going on. So I'm really looking forward to today after a really great session this morning. Again, as it was for me, probably not for all of you. I'm really looking forward to that content. And this morning, Jarrod asked me a question, put me on the spot a little bit, to ask if there was one thing that I would say from a community perspective would help build local communities. And seeing that GUE Q8 video during this morning's session, it really that really answered all those questions for me. So it's all about building enjoyment around diving and starting small and not expecting to dive the Mars within your community within the first few weeks. So that's about it from me. I hope you all enjoy this second session, and I hope to join you for the final session this afternoon, as it will be in UK time, from the boat here in Scapa Flow.
That's great. Thanks very much, Marcus. And I think on the third session, I would be expecting you to be broadcasting from underwater. Is that an appropriate request?
I can't make any promises. The IT may fail.
Might fail. Yeah, the iPhone might not broadcast that way. I think you're sticking with us. Is that true, Nico?
Yeah, pretty much. Well, no, we're actually, Marcus, just before you leave, we are going to bring on Owen and Andy in a moment. But Marcus, right, just so everyone watching live can have a look where you are, just give us a little spin, show us your surroundings on the boat. Look at that. Beautiful. And that's what we all want to be doing right now.
Is that a lake in the background?
No, this is Scotland's not always like this, but this is the
sure. You just tell us that, so we'll stay away. That's great, Marcus. Thanks very much for your help with the community efforts as well. As you say, the GUE Kuwait group helped bring home, all communities start with a party of one and then move outward. GUE was the same. All of our various communities around the world. Really don't be shy if you're starting with a small group and you're trying to get things rolling. Most of our developed communities have been around for 1, 2, or more decades. So don't be shy, and try to get in touch with us if there's anything we can do to support you. So I'd like to go ahead and bring in our GUE Scotland group if we can get some fun here. We can talk about Scapa Flow. Owen and Andy are coming to us, talking to us a little bit about their activities. Hey guys, welcome. How are you doing today?
Hi, Jarrod. Yeah, good.
Great to see you.
Brought the weather with us.
I can see. I was just saying, is that a lake behind you, or what are you guys diving?
This is Stromness Harbour, so we're effectively North Sea from here, really, just out of the harbour.
That's excellent. Well, it looks like at least in the harbour it's nice. How are conditions out there now?
Pretty flat, I think. Being a natural harbour, the flow is a natural harbour, so it usually has quite good conditions year round. And so far, it looks like we're gonna have a good week. Fingers crossed. Yeah,
you're afraid to tell me that, right? You don't want to make any weather predictions and say, "Oh yeah, things are great."
We were just told that we brought the weather with us, so hopefully that's a good omen.
We can always hope for that. So, how many times have you guys been there? A couple times in the past. You're diving regularly in that area, yes?
Yeah,
I've been twice, 2013 and 2015, and this will be first time without a full GUE team. So yeah, looking forward to it.
Excellent.
Yeah, I was here last year at the Centenary Week, the 100-year anniversary of the scuttling, which was really interesting and busy.
Yeah, I bet. Nice. That's awesome. And so what's your favorite wreck in that area?
Personally, the Crom Prince.
So many to choose from.
Too many to choose, but the Crom Prince is really cool. You can get right in underneath the decks to the 2 sets of 12-inch guns, and have a look at them and swim around underneath the decking. So it's incredible to be able to see that piece of history and how significant it is, and the history that this entire area has, really.
We've got 3 battleships and 4 light cruisers to choose from, plus a few other wrecks. So,
and remind our audience, how many wrecks in total do you have easy access to?
I mean, in total, it's got to be 20 odd plus. 7 of the main warships.
Okay, that's a lot. So it's a premier area for wreck diving, one of the premier activities for wreck diving in the world. How many people are on this project?
Well, we're just going to show you the boat. I think we can.
Oh, do we have the technology?
Camera. Hopefully, here we go.
Ah, there you'll make the audience really jealous now.
Valkyrie. So this is our boat for the week. So it's a liverboard. We actually are going to be staying on this, albeit in the harbour. And
now this one has a hot tub on it, of course, right?
It's a what? Sorry.
It's got a sauna on board, right?
Yeah. I think these can go 60 miles offshore. I think. So they're pretty big boats, and there's quite a few of them sort of dotted about around the harbour.
And how many people do you guys have on this trip?
So there's 7 of us on our boat, and then we've got another boat with another 7 people, I think, on with Rich Walker.
Oh. Yeah, Rich is coming. That's great stuff. Tell Rich we said hello.
Will do. Yeah, I think they're all on the. Sorry, I'm just trying to get the camera right. I think they're all on the ferry at the minute, so we're just getting our gear together. Wait until we can get on the boats, and then we'll be packing up to start diving tomorrow.
Awesome. Well, good stuff, guys. I hope the weather holds out for you. It's been great chatting with you.
You too, Jarrod. Thank you.
Thanks,
guys.
Jarrod.
Best of luck to you. Have a wonderful time. All right. So I think there's quite a few people jealous over that. Some really amazing wreck diving in the region. So any of you who have that opportunity, I would recommend you get out that way. So for any of you guys interested, go join them, and let's all try to move on now and look about our GUE Sweden group. Nico, do we have them on the line at the moment?
I am just having a look for GUE Sweden as we speak. Doesn't seem so, I'm afraid. No, we might have to cut in and bring in Egypt, if that's okay.
Of course, we'd love to talk to our Egyptian friends. Bring them on in.
Ebrasho, you're coming in, my friend.
Hi, good day.
Hello, how are you doing? Very nice to see you. How are things in Egypt?
Quite hot. It's 40 now. We are in the middle of the sea.
Yeah, we're almost melting.
And,
It's 43.
Oh,
and we have Mr. Isa from GUE Egypt as well.
Hello, good afternoon.
good afternoon. I
We
missed
are
my
talking
time in
about
Egypt
today.
there, and I'm pretty used to the heat. So,
Sorry.
what are you guys? What kind of diving are you guys doing today?
We're doing the Thomas Canyon. We're just passing by Lulia shipwreck, just bumped 1981, and we're just passing by. So this is how it looks in the back, wheel back. So I hope you are seeing it.
We are
That's
Yep, we can see it in the distance for sure. And the weather there
Yeah.
looks pretty nice as well.
Yeah, the water temperature is 29. So
yeah.
so it's really discrepancy between what temperature above the water and what's in there.
And that's why
Excellent. How many?
That's why explains why I'm on a wetsuit and he's in a dry suit, because I really cannot stand it.
Well, all you got to do is open up his neck seal if you want him to feel the proper water.
Oh, yeah.
Great stuff. Well, guys, it was great to speak with you. Thanks very much for
Right,
making the
thank you so
time to
much.
call in. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your day out that way.
Really, thank you, Mr. Jarrod.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. That's great stuff. I'm sure many of you have been over to the Red Sea. Really some great diving in the area, spectacular activity across the full spectrum. So nice to see everyone out. We have obviously a lot of diversity around the world, people who are experiencing different levels of COVID complications. Nice to see some areas of the world are really coming out of some of the worst difficulties. We spoke to Beijing this morning, and I know, for example, things are really looking pretty good in China for the most part. So that's hopeful, and hopefully we can all get past this over the next year, of course, with some ups and downs. So Nico, who else do we have ready? We got anybody? Can we go to Sweden or Chile?
Let's have a quick look in the waiting room. How about we bring in Chile?
All right, let's do it. We love Chile.
Hello, Jarrod. How are you?
Very nice to see you. How are you doing?
I'm fine. I'm fine. In the farm here.
How are things going in Chile?
It's very good. When around the world, I think difficult times,
Yeah, for sure. Everyone's having quite some challenges. I think that part of the world, you guys have had some up and down. Are currently people more or less in lockdown, or are you guys a little bit more flexible?
Yeah, no, we have people locked down. But it's complicated because also this is our it's a free time in Chile for the weekend, and all is closed. All the cities are closed in this moment.
Okay, so really not much diving that you're able to do at the moment. Things are pretty closed down.
Last week we start diving with a special permit, but it's difficult. The government have some laws here, and we need to do what they say, not.
Yeah, for sure. No,
Yes.
That's important. Hopefully, if we live a little bit more restricted over the next year, we can get back to some version of normalcy. So what would you tell people interested in traveling to Chile? What are your favorite dives in the area?
Well, we have many areas here. It's the ocean, the first, and then many lakes. My area here in Chile is it's around 20 lakes and more or less. And Chile is a long country and have a lot of ocean from the north till the Antarctica.
Yeah, it's a great country and a tremendous amount of coastline for sure.
Yes, very.
And
very
do you
long.
have many good wrecks in the area that you like to dive?
Yeah, of course, we have many rocks and.
And do you ever get over to Brazil from your area? Do you do any cave diving? There's some really nice stuff in Brazil as well.
Yeah, and Chile is it's a very young country, and we have many dives. Not too much cheap rig, but the rest is okay for me.
But you prefer Chile?
I prefer Chile. It's a little bit cold water, but I prefer Chile.
What is the temperature there most of the time?
The ocean normally is between 8 and 10 degrees, and in the lakes between 10 and 14 degrees, depends in summertime, it's a little bit higher. But it's very nice.
So do you invite us all to come visit?
Yeah, please come and visit us in Chile. It's a friend.
We look forward to that. We might. I think the travel is still going to be complicated for a little bit longer, but as soon as it's done, we need to get your way.
Yeah, but the flights are directly from Europe or United States to Santiago de Chile. It's our capital. And then from Santiago to Puerto Montt is my area here. Takes 1 hour more, 1,000 kilometers. 1 hour more or less. But it's very nice here.
Excellent. Well, we'll have to visit very soon. Thanks very much for coming on and for your support and for helping to develop the GUE community there in Chile. It was a pleasure to speak to you today.
Okay, thank you for you, Jarrod.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Okie dokie. So it does seem like we're at a place now where unfortunately these things happen, but we might be missing one of our guests. Sadly, Sweden haven't shown up. Hopefully they're just off busy diving somewhere.
Well, those Swedes, they're always late, so it's okay. We don't need to worry. We can move on into Meredith, I think, at the moment, and we can always pivot back.
Yep.
I understand Meredith is in the waiting room, so we can bring on Meredith. Many of you know Meredith is one of our recreational instructor evaluators, and she's the only woman in the organization currently teaching both tech and cave. And she served as diving safety officer on the Baseline Explorer, so she got a lot of great experience in that area as well. And she's the founder of Wet Rocks and offers a guiding service all through Hawaii as well as her teaching. So let's bring Meredith on and see how things are going for her.
Yep. Just before I jump off, guys, everyone watching online now, please help out the community. Give the thumbs up to the video. Makes Jarrod think that I've done my job well. That would help me a lot. Thanks, guys.
I don't know. All right, you should do it. He's doing a great job, actually. Nico's been doing a lot of good work and really helping revitalize the YouTube channel as well. So let's say hello to Meredith. Mer, how are you doing today? Welcome. It's nice to have you.
I am doing well, and you?
Very good to see you. Yes, I'm not as good as the guys heading off to Scapa Flow, but I can't really complain because I get to meet a lot of great people and we get to travel around the world virtually. Awesome. Where are you at in the world at the moment?
Well, I am in Florida, so I missed the what would have been the 2 a.m. session for me this morning. So bright and early here.
Quite often, actually, in the early morning. We see you in the instructor meetings in some early morning.
When I was out in Hawaii, when I was a little bit stuck there during the lockdowns, were some early mornings because I was the only one smack in the middle of the Pacific, so I always got the short end of the stick on the meeting times.
All right. Yeah, that is a little bit challenging. And, when you tell people you're in lockdown in Hawaii, I don't know why it doesn't seem so terrible.
Well, I was staying with my elderly parents, so I couldn't do anything. And then we had a sewer line break and that affected some of the shore dives that had reopened from the lockdown. So it was a interesting situation.
Okay, so you make it sound a little less appealing than before. So, how are things? When's the last time you were in Florida? What's the diving been looking like in that area?
I mean, it's looking pretty good right now. The conditions are pretty good. I'm up in cave country right now. So it's the caves have been in pretty good condition. We'll see what happens with the rain that happened from Sally up in Georgia. That's coming down some of the rivers, so we may lose a couple of sites, but it wasn't as bad as it could have been.
Yeah, things have been pretty resilient, and actually, generally speaking, it looks like we've had pretty good conditions throughout. Have you been doing much ocean diving out that way lately?
Not since COVID, no.
Okay, it adds a little bit of complexity for sure. And but normally you are doing a fair bit of ocean diving off the Florida coast as well.
Yeah, we do a lot of ocean diving here because I mean, it feels a little strange you talking to me about Florida diving, but being from Florida yourself. But of course, we've got 2,000 kilometers of coastline, so we've got lots of places to dive in the sea here.
Where is the most common place that you tend to go out? I mean, I'm from the Palm Beach area, so that was sort of my stomping grounds up to Fort Pierce area. What's your favorite?
Well, I like the Fort Lauderdale, Pompano area, Keys. It's kind of one of my favorite places. And I've been trying to get out on the Oriskany off the Panhandle, but every time I plan that, the weather seems to not cooperate.
It is challenging. I've had a bunch of problems with weather for the Oriskany. What is your favorite of those ocean dives?
My favorite is probably the Hydro Atlantic. It's a very large wreck. It's got lots of growth on it, lots of life on it. It's huge. It's a real wreck. So you can dive it 3 times in 1 week and see something totally different each dive.
Yeah, I think that there is a lot of diversity that people don't realize. And most people think of Florida as a cave diving region. So it's unfortunate how few people take advantage also of the ocean diving. They imagine they need to be cave diver in order to really enjoy Florida, and you can do both. So I'd encourage that for sure. So, what is your favorite in the cave diving or the ocean diving, since you're doing a fair bit of both?
Well, I'm probably a cave diver first, but one of the really Florida-based things to do is there's a lot of people that dive both cave and tech, or recreational and cave, and if they plan to go to the ocean when the weather is good, and when the weather isn't as good, which is usually a wind issue, that doesn't affect us in the caves at all. So just run inland, hit the caves on the weekends that the wind's up on the ocean. So it gives you kind of some really good options to bulletproof your weekend diving plans.
Okay, I like that, except when the hurricanes come. So, a lot of people are endlessly watching hurricane after hurricane spin off and hit Florida. What's your take on that craziness? Just hunker down.
Yeah, I mean, just hunker down, get your hurricane supplies. And the beautiful thing about the springs and being inland here is that there's been times that actually pretty big hurricanes have come over, and all we've lost for diving is the day of the hurricane going over inland. So,
you haven't tried to dive during the eye, have you?
No, I'm not quite willing to go that far, but yes.
That's extra motivation, I would think.
Yeah.
So, just tell our audience, if you can, what do you see as being sort of defining characteristics of Florida caves? A lot of people see pictures of Mexico, and I think a lot of the beauty of Florida caves tends to be under-realized. What is your experience? You've been a lot in both areas.
Yeah, I mean, so of all of the places in the world that I've dove, still my favorite cave in the world is in Florida near Tallahassee, Indian Springs. But the things that I just love about Florida caves is they are so varied from one system to the other, because you're looking at types of rock and sizes of passage and how that rock is carved out. In some caves, it's really, really smooth walls. In some caves, they're very scalloped and really sharp edges, just by the chemistry that's gone on as those caves have been formed. But probably my favorite thing in Florida caves is I am a clay bank geek. You get these multicolored clay banks.
I'm learning something new about you here, Meredith. Okay.
Yeah, I love my clay, man. And what's so funny is people will swim by in the first 300 feet of Ginny Springs, will swim by my favorite clay bank in Ginny, and they won't even notice it's there. And they swim by it like, hundreds of times and don't stop to admire these really neat details. And still, I'm still finding new fossils in Ginny Springs that I've got, probably 500 plus cave dives in, that I'm still finding new fossils that I haven't seen before. So it's a really interesting place to dive, and you don't have to worry about getting blown out last minute notice. So that's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Funny enough, I love the clay banks myself, so that's cute. It reminds me a little bit of those bottles where they used to put the sand layers and really intricate designs and all kinds of different colors. Between that and the fossils, I concur. Some really great stuff. Well, that's great, Meredith. Thanks very much for joining us. Anything else you want to say to our communities around the world before we let you go?
No, just come on down to Florida. And well, maybe one little misconception with Florida is about the weather. So let me talk a little bit about the difference in the weather in North and South Florida. Because South Florida, we were talking about the West Palm, Fort Lauderdale, Miami, the Keys area, that stays pretty warm year round, with maybe a 2-week winter time frame that everybody down there freaks out. Up in North Florida, we have seasons, which can actually make it really comfortable for dry suit divers in the winter. So the dry suit diver season in North Florida is kind of November to April is the high season up here. And we get some cool nights, pleasantly warm afternoons So the two parts of the state are actually different weather patterns, and North Florida is nice and rural. It's a nature-based tourism, hiking, paddling, camping, versus South Florida is a bit more metropolitan and the types of things that you would expect in a higher population concentration. So one thing some people don't know about the area, that you can find very different vibes in these different parts of the state.
Yeah, it's like being in a different area from Miami to Gainesville and Tallahassee. It's like a whole nother country, actually.
Whole new world. Excellent. Thank you for having me.
Thanks very much. We appreciate you coming by, Mary. You take care. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, so I think our next guest, Nico, is going to be Gareth. And
yes, sir. Got Gareth right here, bringing you in now, Gareth.
All right, perfect. Many of you know Gareth. He's our Director of Quality Assurance. Hey, Gareth, how you doing?
I'm all good now. I'm all good now. Turn the mic on. So yeah, it's
that's a good thing.
In the working office.
All right, perfect. I love the working office. For those of you who don't know, Gareth is the founder of the Human Diver. He had a 25-year career in the Royal Air Force, and then he decided to come into the diving world and really have the proper amount of fun. And he's really doing a lot of work for us in the risk management and quality assurance side. And you're going to talk to us a little bit about building your dive team, I understand, Gareth.
Yeah, so actually it's one of the things that Marcus last year asked me to put a presentation together. You know, as a community, it's made up of lots of little teams, and we come together as that bigger piece. And I've got a few slides just to talk through some of the concepts. Yeah, nice to see you again, Dorota, which I'm going to sort of go through those now, Nico. I'm just queuing them up, and that should work now. Okay, just to confirm, Nico, you got the first piece?
Yep, you should have it all there, mate. We are good to go. I'm watching the screen. Rock on. We've got your presentation up.
Brilliant. Okay, so one of the bits, you know, I've been really fortunate to travel around the world and better bring my knowledge and experience from military aviation and the high performance teams there into the diving community, as Jarrod said. And one of the communities that I sort of got involved with early on, GUE communities, in terms of my training, was the GUE Seattle community. And this was taken, this photo and a number of the others were taken during a setup, a weekend they got, and invite me along, and we ran some classes there as well. And it's brilliant. They have created a community, and they are developing leaders within that, and they are all inclusive. And one of the bits that trying to bring out there is, you know, how do you create those teams? We'll start off with, what is a team? What is teamwork? It's that, and this is a nice scientific definition of what teamwork is. But the important bits are the bits that I've highlighted in here, that we're working interdependently. We couldn't achieve the goal on our own, so we've got to work. And in this case here was John, and I've forgotten who the other good, Dave, when we were out in Red Sea Explorers a number of years ago, and myself and James Sanderson, who was a GUE fundamentals instructor, were acting as safety divers, handling all of these bottles after they'd just done a fairly deep wreck dive there. And we are, you know, we had a common goal. We were there to help them handle all of this stuff after, you know, they've just done this dive. So we are working independently. We've got a shared and valued goal, mission, or objective. We knew what we were supposed to be doing, and they knew what they were supposed to be doing. And that is really the key part of a team. And that might be a recreational dive. It might just be a sort of a 5 meter, 20-foot exploration on a reef that you've never been there before. It might be looking, as Meredith said, you know, wet rocks, looking at clay. Great, looking at wet rocks. That could be, you know, that could be the goal for your dive and what you're trying to do. But that means that we've got to talk about it beforehand. So, you know, what makes an effective team? And I put this image up here for Team Foxturd, because when I got involved in the GUE community in around about 2006, I met a number of other guys who were getting involved in GUE fundamentals, and we put this team together. And it was our training team. But more than that, it was about an inclusion team. It was about bringing people together as part of that community and trying to demystify a bunch of the stuff about DIR and GUE. And we would include people. We would have these things called Chimps Tea Parties. And the picture on the left is, it can be fun. we on that photo was World Extreme Ironing Championships, and I was doing the photos for that. And one of the team, in fact, all of the team were taking part in that, and we were down at 50 meters ironing tea towels for a world record. So on the left-hand side are some sort of definitions, but it is working together on what we're trying to do. We add value to each other. We know what we're supposed to be doing. We've got this thing called a shared mental model. What are we supposed to be doing, talking about it? And I'll explain on that a little bit better, a little bit in a second. And the most important bit at the bottom is this: we're all mutually accountable. If I make a mistake, I'd expect either Gareth or Wilbo, Howard, James or Lanny to call me out. And if they made a mistake, I'd expect, they expected to be called out as well. And there's this image at the bottom is anybody can thumb a dive at any time for any reason is critical when we're trying to develop teams and communities where people are not used to diving. And there might be some fear, they're not sure, and it is creating that environment that says it is okay to speak up. And this is what the research has shown is the key trait of a team: psychological safety, that ability to bring people in, to feel included. Because if you're in the team and you feel included, then it is much easier to contribute and to make mistakes. And those are the two next levels where we're talking about, hey, if I make a mistake in this team, is it okay? Nobody is perfect. Everybody makes mistakes. And I think this is one of the challenges we have within GUE is, as an organization that's committed to excellence, that doesn't mean that we don't make mistakes. We will do. It's how we learn from those. And that means that, if we're okay to make mistakes and we can talk about them in an open manner so everybody can learn, what we can then get is people are able to contribute, and they are able to bring in their experience and their knowledge from previous projects or previous experiences. And then finally, what we really want within a team is that bit that says anybody can challenge what's going on. And that could be from the dive before you've even got in the water. And the documentary that I produced and released in May this year called If Only, which was about a fatality 2 years ago in Hawaii. Unfortunately, there were people on that boat knew or felt that something wasn't quite right, and they were unable to speak up. And unfortunately, Brian Buggy died as a consequence of others. He made his own mistakes, and his widow talks about those. But at the same time, other people felt that that wasn't quite right. And it is something that trying to develop with the sort of community that I'm developing, the human diver community, and also within GUE, is that ability to speak up and challenge. Now, the other bits that help teams is having some standardization. And that's what GUE is known about. We've got standardized equipment. It doesn't have to be from Halcyon, although that would be a good thing. But it is a standardized configuration. And that means that we can look at somebody and say, that isn't quite right. And that helps us speak up. The other side of it is we want to have diversity, because then people bring different ideas. We don't want to sit in our own echo chamber and say, this is how we do it, because there are other contributions that come there. So we've got sort of two potentially conflicting bits, but that's really what the leadership is about. How to encourage other people to speak up is really the role of the leaders and the peers. It is that bit that says, I don't know the answer. Can you ask? Can you help me? Don't be afraid of asking those stupid questions, because there is no such thing as a stupid question. The only one that you could even sort of classify is after the event, and you will feel the guilt and say, I wish I had said something. So leaders set that tone. The other two pieces that really help develop teams, and this is a few years ago, Dorota, on the Operation Tiger project that Rich Walker and GUE UK ran on the south coast of the UK. And briefing, understand what we're supposed to be doing on the dive. And we've got GUE Edge. That certainly helps frame what the dive is about. What we also need to do is debrief the dive. Look at what happened on the dive. What do we learn? And there's a framework that I teach that is about creating humility and vulnerability from the leader's point of view, and then getting contributions from all of the team as to about, what went well and why, how does the team improve and how. The observations of what went well and what do we need to improve on are relatively easy. Anybody can observe stuff. The much harder questions are, why did things go well? So we can reinforce it. And the really hard question is, how do we change things? Because a lesson in a team is not learned until you've actually put something in place. And there are lots of lessons identified from teams. Communities, high-performance communities, share those lessons amongst each other so that we can all get better at the same time. So that is sort of the whistle-stop tour of, you know, how to build a team, and I can make these slides available. But if there's any questions that come in, or you've got questions, I'm more than happy. So there we go.
I have at least one question. What is the ironing tea towels?
Yeah, so in 2009, we had a world record to raise money for the Royal National Lifeboat Institution, and we managed to get, at the time, it was about 130 divers in the water in a quarry in the UK, but only 90, I think, of those counted in terms of the time slot. So we had the deep team at about 50 meters, but we had lots of ironing boards and lots of irons and lots of divers, and we raised a fair amount of money. It was in the sort of £10,000 mark for the RNLI. So there's a great community, and that was just bringing people together through a forum. It's great fun.
What's the shock hazard like on that activity? Where does the risk assessment fall in?
It was the biggest shock was it was in January, so it was thermal shock in a quarry that was probably about 5 or 6 degrees centigrade. So yeah.
And you couldn't even leave the iron plugged in. You couldn't even leave the iron plugged in to keep warm, I guess. So.
No, that was what we talked about, but no, we couldn't do that. So.
All right, that's great. That was very nice, Gareth. And I would like to openly encourage everyone in the community to pay attention to some of the things Gareth's got going on and talking about. He's really got some great programs. And one of the things that we all tend to forget about is that we really set an example. I know I forget that sometimes myself, and a lot of times we really need to be cognizant of that, and we really do need to be comfortable talking to each other openly, honestly. We can do it respectfully, but if you see something that doesn't make sense, I just really encourage a lot of people to go over and ask a question, be courteous. There's the fear of offending someone or getting sideways with individuals or of reprisal is just unfortunate, because we're really all a community of good-willed people that are motivated to get better and to dive safely and have a great time. And so I'd love to take that out of the equation. Gareth, we appreciate your voice in that regard. So thanks for continuing to remind us to keep it together.
Brilliant. Thank you. And love to be on here and sharing all of this community stuff, because it's through that we can get better all together.
Excellent. Well, thanks for all your service to the organization and for your efforts on diver safety. And we appreciate you joining us here on the community today. Thanks again.
Brilliant. Thanks so much, Jarrod. Take care.
Take care. All right. I think what we could do is perhaps we could bring in Dorota, Nico, and she could fire in some of the questions, I think, if we're ready for a Q&A session.
We can do. I think we actually, yeah, cool. Let's do the Q&A. Let me bring Doro back. And there we go.
Dorota, you got some interesting questions that we want to cover. How are you there doing?
Questions, you mean? Oh.
The Q&A questions. I remember that we had a few questions. I remember.
Yeah. I mean, we have one question that was asked recently when we did our live stream with Nico, when we introduced the channel. It was a question, how practical would it be to still dive helium, like in an open circuit, if everybody is tending to use rebreathers now?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. Obviously, as you know, I think it's going to depend a lot on the depth that we're talking about. So, in the sort of 30 to 40 meter range, the sort of Tech 1, 100 to 130 foot range, or even all the way to 45 meters, 150 feet kind of area, you can still do some really nice, quite productive diving from my perspective. Mm-hmm. And in a lot of Tech 1 level type dives, I would be happy to dive open circuit and just enjoy the freedom and the ease and the convenience and not having to clean rebreathers and break down. But certainly as you start to get deeper than that, I think it becomes progressively less complex and or expensive, frankly speaking. So if you're diving frequently much past that level, then it becomes problematic. And that's really why we changed the requirement to bring people in at a little bit earlier phase to let them start to gain experience as they start getting close to the range that they would want to be using a rebreather. But certainly by Tech 2, I would say people are going to be looking to make that change, unless they're diving very infrequently.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit a challenge from my perspective, because to get experience, you need to dive it. And to dive it, you need to have an experience. So you need to start with shallow dives as well, and not just go straight into a deeper exploration dives on a unit. I mean, I'm talking from my own experience. So that's why I always say that, yeah, it does make sense. I mean, any type of experience that you have in that, even shallower range, it's worthwhile. So, and as you said, diving in a more difficult conditions, and I know quite many people who are diving the recreational helium, let's say, so trioaks, within the range of 30 meters, and they appreciate that. So I as well agree that it's not really something that we will see disappearing, even with the current.
For sure not. It's a reasonably common gas at extreme exposure and high springs. People are diving in Devil's Ear with high flow, and they're diving, up to the 30-meter or even a bit deeper if you go further back in the cave. And it's fairly common, both from increasing the ease of breathing and reducing any narcosis that affects from working hard. So for sure that can be the case.
Just a quick one, guys. We've got some questions from the community that have come in. Are you happy to take those?
Of course.
Fantastic. Sending them your way right.
Is that the disabled people learn from GUE? It really depends on whether they can manage. Well, Jarrod, why don't you take this one?
Thank you. I mean, we did have several people in the past asking about things like this. And then I like the way you asked that question, because you asked about, can disabled people learn from GUE? And I would say yes, because there is opportunities in learning about, trim, positioning, buoyancy, about safety, teamwork, and many other aspects that I think every diver will benefit from. But there is one thing that a diver like that might need to remember, that we might not be able to certify them, because we do have certain certification requirements, and depending on a disability, a person might not be able to achieve those. But we did have quite active divers, we do have, that are disabled. They are not GUE certified, but they are GUE trained, because we ask our instructors to coach them. So it depends, the answer is yes, it depends, and no, it depends. Jarrod, anything on that one?
I would say that we would welcome that in any case where we can get the disabled person to accomplish the skills necessary. We don't have any effective way to change the standard requirements. So it's not so much about the disability as it is about the ability to meet the performance objectives. And we'd be happy to work with people and do everything we can to support their search and their quest to reaching that standard. But we don't have a mechanism to change the standard. Okay, and I see Anton asked a question, one that he's asked in the past. Anton, I presume you mean small cave. We do have a configuration for cave diving in general. If you're looking, and as I think you are, talking about, sort of dry cave sump or very small side mount type cave, not yet. It's still something we are discussing, but I don't think developing at this point a standardized configuration for something that's still relatively uncommon community-wide is necessary. So as you know, we are playing around with some different configurations and are using those configurations in a variety of situations, but not at the point where I would advocate for standardizing them quite yet.
Just
do we have any other ones?
Just one more, bringing it up now.
All right, I think that's right up your alley, Dorota.
Yeah, I knew it, that I will answer that one.
I'm happy to, but I'd like to let you know.
I'm fine, because when I was teaching for different agencies, I was teaching kids, and I had some amazing experiences with young divers, like really very young. And one of them was, I think he was maybe 10, And at that time, I will come back to what GUE is doing. At that time, he was into, which was really very amazing for me, because the boy was into underwater photography. So I took him very shallow. It was 2.5 meters, I think, under the jetty where our boats have been mooring. And he spent 45 minutes photographing all the fish that he could see. At some point, I needed to pull him out of the water because he was starting to shake because he was so cold, and ask him, do you want to continue? And he said, no, I need to take all of the, I need to make my camera full because it was still with the film. And he was extremely enthusiastic. So to answer your question, I would not, because I'm quite skeptical in regards of teaching 2 young kids to scuba dive. So using equipment, because the equipment is heavy, the increase in depth might challenge the kids to equalize, and it's very hard sometimes to explain the equalization process in regards of ears, and they might be prone to injury because they might not be able to express or tell or even recognize what's going on. But what I would really strongly encourage is to bring people to discover the underwater world with snorkeling, because some people say, it's not the same, but to be honest, it brings a lot of experience from their side, because they will be used to get in the water, they will be used to use fins, to be breathing not directly through their mouth and nose, because there will be a mask, there will be a snorkel. And I believe this is the best way to introduce them and getting them engaged. And then as well, there are some options with surface supplied scuba gear. But here, anyway, I'm always concerned about the kids' safety and their understanding of pressure changes. So it could be an issue of holding breath when they get a little bit scared and they come up to the surface, or equalizing. So for me, they should be brought to the water as soon as they can, but I would always suggest at that young age, like 10 years, to start with snorkeling or skin diving.
Do we have time for just one more?
Yeah, sure. I think we can squeeze in one more. Wow, it's all you today, Dorota. Recreational.
Yeah, ratio between Rec 1 and fundamental students in about 1 to 20. I'm not sure if I understand the question. So the difference between... Okay, now I think I get it. So the question is probably that we have more fundamentals than Rec 1 students. So for every fundamental student, for one Rec 1 student, we have like 20 fundamentals, yes?
Yeah, probably even less, but I think it's how do we get more people Rec 1 diving?
For me, it is a very, the process is hard for us from my perspective, because we do not want to make it short, and we do not want to lose the quality that we believe we are delivering. So for me, the best advertisement for me, and the best way to propagate the idea of us teaching recreational divers, is to, of course, have more recreational dive centers, train more recreational instructors, because we need to be more available, because we are still very rare species in that regard, I would say. So we are working on developing both of these aspects, so dive centers and more recreational instructors who are actually interested in training those, because unfortunately, many times if people are venturing into GUE and they smell the adventure of exploration, and if they put the twin set on their backs, they are lost, and they don't want to most of the time train beginners anymore. But the beginners are extremely important for us to make. I don't want to sound pessimistic, like to survive, but we need the young blood coming, and we would like to train them in a proper way. And the best advertisement for us is our students, because they do amazing things. They are actively diving, and sometimes when I did my first Rec 1 with our marketing director Amanda, I was surprised how good they became in the end. And I said, like, wow, they do not know how good they are. So they are the kind of walking advertisement. That's why for us it's a little bit hard start, because we need to have the amount of instructors, dive centers, and students just to gain momentum and then be more visible. And I hope it answered the question a little bit without being too complicated.
No, I thought that was perfect. Thanks very much. That's really good. I think we had one more question from Anton. Anton, you've joined now. This is your second session, so I think we'll go ahead and take your question. Many cave divers underestimate the financial implications of cave rescue. We can certainly talk to our friends at Dan. This is I think it's a good question, and you're absolutely right. I know you're doing a bunch of that, especially these days. And for sure, depending on the location that the cave rescue is in or from, it could be significant. So yeah, I think that's an excellent point and something we could certainly talk about. I don't know how the risk assessment works on that one, but Anton, since that's your background, maybe you can come up with a good proposal that I can present. I think it is an important issue, and we do have a lot of conversations with them in that kind of world. So a lot of good questions. I even have several more here, but I think we should go ahead and bring Mara on since we're running through the time fairly quickly. I think many of you know Andrea Marostic, and he's a longtime GUE instructor actually since 2004. Good friend, and he's really been a great explorer, doing a lot of diving in Sardinia, running a lot of scientific and documentation projects in the underwater caves there, and really spending the additional time that he has when he's not in Sardinia, in Mexico or Florida and France. And he's really doing a lot of really neat global cave diving activities. We have Mara that we can bring on and say hello.
We can indeed. Just before we bring Mara on, Mara, this one's actually for you. I've got your presentation ready. Just give me the cues for when you want me to move to the next slide, okay? Bringing you on.
Hello.
Welcome, Mara. Great to see you, my friend. How's life treating you?
Not too bad. Hi, Jarrod. Definitely could have been worse here.
Yeah. Where are you at right now?
Yeah, I'm still in Sardinia. Basically, I spent the whole season here, much longer than expected, but I can't complain. A little bit like being stuck in Florida.
Yeah, it's not too bad. I wouldn't mind being stuck there for a bit. And how are the virus complications there?
Well, I would say in terms of numbers, it's definitely not a drama, especially here in Sardinia, but traveling is becoming more complex. So I would say it's actually fine, but not many movements.
Yeah, that's very understandable. Well, you're in a good place for it, and you can get a lot of active diving in. Why don't you tell our folks about some of the great work you're doing there in Sardinia?
Well, definitely, I've never been diving as much as this year. I had so much free time for diving rather than teaching that I potentially almost enjoyed it.
Almost?
Kind of a compromise would have been better.
Well, I don't know. I mean, the picture you're showing us looks terrible. You know, I don't know. I don't know if anybody here would really want to do that.
Well, actually, I got also the bad pictures, but I didn't think it was a good idea.
Okay, fair enough. We might all come flooding to the island of Sardinia. It's beautiful. It's been a while since I've been there, but I love the diving there. Tell us a little bit about the diving itself and the stuff you're doing there.
Well, basically, as you see from the first 3 pictures, and Nico, that's a hint for you. Just scroll easily on the pictures. No big deal. If you're a little bit faster or slower, it doesn't really make a huge difference. It's a wonderful place. It's a touristic island. It's between Italy and Spain. Turquoise water, warm water, and behind it you got the limestone plateau, which is called Supramonte. Under the Supramonte plateau, there is a massive freshwater aquifer. And the interesting bit is that most of the springs or resurgences are literally on the coastline, so they're all accessible by boat. The result is that these caves are sharing the same characteristics, and somehow it means they are unkyaline caves, underground freshwater. I think you know this stuff, Jarrod, right? A little bit better than me, I guess.
I know a little bit about it, but I'd rather hear you say it, especially with that beautiful Italian accent.
Thank you. So basically, it's unkyaline caves. It's freshwater underground rivers with intrusion of salt water. And in the next few pictures, Nico, you can go ahead. You can see there is lots of decorations. It means the caves were once dry. During ice ages, there were differences in sea level of about 150 meters, which means you can see decorations because the caves were dry. You can actually see on the coastline the wave-cut notch, which is marking the level of the previous or ancient sea levels. Now, these caves are characterized by long sumps, as the last question was about sumps and dry caving. But this is actually a place where there is a big deal of a combination between cave diving and dry caving. And the geology is extremely complex, just because of the different type of rocks and multiple joints going north to south and east to west. Now, the project itself, I like to call it almost a holiday. It started as a holiday in 2013, 2014. And basically we came here and we started documented photo and video of the caves because they were not very famous in Europe. I mean, there was already people diving them and exploring them, but the big community didn't know much about them. And the other big kickstart of the project has been the research of Dr. Romano. Elena started the research in benthic foraminifera, microscopic shells hidden in the sediment, and using them as environmental indicators. And this basically meant to be needed a lot of people working on sampling water and sediment. Nico, you can go ahead, a couple of pictures. Not it was at the end. Doesn't matter. Well, just scroll down through the pictures and you will find a lot more. But basically, we did a lot of divers able to collect samples of water and sediment, both with little bottles or sediment cores. And somehow this required a lot of work, multiple teams, and became kind of challenging, but quite interesting very soon. In the next years, it developed exponentially, and we started introducing different types of research. And I would say the most interesting one for me was the paleontological research, again, surveying fossilized bones or sampling, let's say, simple tasks, but definitely more into the caves, like 4.5 kilometers into the caves, to understand if the chemistry of the water was different. There could be possible connection between thermal springs and the fresh water coming to the coastline. Needless to say, surveying has been a very important part of this work. And in the end, actually, at the beginning, we started with the normal analogic survey, normal compasses. We moved into MNEMO's digital tools and, again, combining multiple teams in the cave. We tried to develop new protocols for 3D survey. And this led my good friends, John Kendall and Peter Brandt, to Sardinia because it became immediately photogrammetry. And they developed both the tools and the procedures to try to show to tourists and normal people, not dry cavers, not cave divers, the result of their work. This requires a lot of technical data processing. As you know, photogrammetry in general is like that, but the complexity in the caves is showing what you see from inside the object rather than the object itself. Knowing the caves a little bit better, surveying, spending a lot more time working on these tasks, allowed us to discover new passages. And that's another, let's say, cornerstone of the project. We are doing a lot more exploration now than we used to do in the past, both underwater caves and dry caves in multiple sumps. Now, personally, the biggest achievements, in my opinion, are not just the publications of the scientific research or the survey of Calaluna, the ongoing exploration, etc., but especially the development of a community, which is not local. It's not a local community, but basically every year we got 60, 70 divers coming to different sessions from different areas in Europe or the planet. Actually, they were coming from Japan, Korea, US, Mexico, you name it, India. And it's very interesting to see how they all grow. So citizen science is the cornerstone in my point of view. And it's like having a big group of researchers, divers, dry cavers, growing, learning from each other every session, and working on a common goal, which in the end is what we are talking since 20 years now with GUE.
Indeed. Yeah, I was hoping that we get that resolved because there's some really nice, it's such a beautiful place.
So I kind of forgot about it. You see, this one, that's how we started. Started with setting up baseline stations. And over time, we decided, okay, it's interesting data. We can do a little bit more of that. And the next pictures, Nico, is about survey. So that's how we literally started. Sediment sampling and sediment cores is the next two ones. This looks very, very simple. It's actually not a difficult task, but it requires a lot of coordination between the teams in the water in terms of timing, distances, who is working on the line, who is working off the line with the temporary lines. So it can get pretty complicated, and researchers are always very demanding. The next two pictures are about the Frankenstein. That's how I call the modified scooters of Peter and John. The next one is clearer. It's kind of a small one, but you can almost see there is a corona of light around the scooter. There's about 8 cameras and 10 lights on each scooter. Scooters are used just as a support, so you don't actually scooter. You scooter to the location you want to shoot video, and then you start swimming with it. And the next picture is actually one of the best skulls we had in Bel Torrente Cave, while the next few pictures are about Cala Luna, and that's sump 1. So after a relatively long dive with side mount restrictions, scootering, etc., we ended up in this cave. And this dry portion is about 1 kilometer long. At the end of this kilometer, we found another sump. And I'm really wondering who has the interest or the strength to go check the water at that place. This is another cave inland where we have been moving on a regular basis, I would say, nowadays, with different teams, all of them relatively small. And it's probably the project of next year's. And this is literally a challenging cave, definitely deeper than the other ones in the Gulf of Orosei on the coastline, but I hope it's going to be rewarding for the whole group involved. And now I would hand it over to Jarrod in case you got any questions.
I have a few. I mean, I want to highlight for everyone that this is a really fantastic caves. I mean, they're so beautiful. The coastline, the area and the island itself is amazingly beautiful. So I really encourage anybody who's interested in cave diving at all to really visit. It's even a great tourist place, so you can bring people just to relax as well. Can you tell us how many caves, roughly speaking, are you dealing with right now? Caves.
It's 8 main systems. Main systems meaning they are relatively easily accessible, either by boat or by car inland. And then there is multiple smaller ones, but they require really hours of hiking to get in, so I would not consider them the best ones or the easiest ones. But just to give an idea about one simple cave, it's about 70 kilometers long. So even if it's only one cave, there's multiple ramifications, different branches, and a lot of potential. I would say it's one of the places in Europe with the biggest exploration potential.
Yeah, that's exciting. How much passage do you have so far?
What do you mean?
What's the total amount of passage so far that has been explored? Do you have a rough gauge on that?
Yeah, well, about 4 kilometers in different caves, out of which 2.5 in Cala Luna cave.
Okay, yeah, that's great. Go ahead.
It's not Mexican numbers, of course. We are talking about Europe, but I would say in general, it's still relatively open. There's always opportunities. A few weeks ago, we found a new lead, a potential lead on the coastline that is pushing fresh water and has to be checked. And it has been there for probably millions of years and nobody saw it before. So same as that one, there's going to be different potential entrances to the deep system hidden under the big limestone platform, because they all expect there is a big deep system that is not accessible and is probably clogged with sediment. I think I remember when you were here with the Pacific provider, you've been diving with the submarine in the deep cavern. Do you remember?
Oh yeah, of course.
And that's basically one of the old entrances to the deep system, but most of them got clogged, and we still need to find the access.
All right. Well, then we'll have to come back, right?
Well, I'm waiting since a few years.
All right, that's a challenge. And I think you guys are doing some really great science as well. I mean, I'm really impressed. I think Elena has really helped to bring a lot of professionalism, and you guys are all working really hard to support proper and effective science. And I'm really grateful to the community that's coming there every year to support. So I think it's definitely time for a return trip. It is definitely one of my favorite diving locations. So kudos to you. Great project. Thanks very much for all your work and your effort. And I encourage all of you to get over there. Great job, mate. It's great to see you, my friend.
Thanks. Bye.
All right. Take care. Okay, so that is something I'd really encourage anybody to join. Some good diving. I think by the time Nico finishes these 3 streams, he's going to really need some proper cave diving anyway. So we'll get out that way. Congratulations to Amara and his team. It's good stuff. Do we have a video, I think, that we can show?
We do indeed, and apologies to everyone that the photos weren't showing while Jarrod and Mara were talking. Technical difficulties last, I hope. Really apologize about that. Let's get the
I think we're going to be looking at a GUE Poland video coming up here.
Hello guys, greetings to the whole GUE family. Hello guys, greetings to the whole GUE family all around the world. My name is Bartek and I am the GUE instructor from Poland. And today I wanted to shortly encourage you and invite you to join GUE Poland community to dive in our beautiful country, which is maybe not the first diving destination that you may think about, but there is a lot of potential that you can discover actually. And especially if you like diving wrecks, this is a place worth considering. As you realize probably, I'm not streaming that video live with you. This is only because physically now I'm in the water, in the Baltic Sea. Sorry about that, but I couldn't resist. The Baltic Sea as a diving destination, we have a lot of wrecks, a lot of potential wrecks to be explored actually. And especially if you like diving wrecks, this is a place worth considering. As you realize probably, I'm not streaming that video live with you. This is only because physically now I'm in the water, in the Baltic Sea. Sorry about that, but I couldn't resist. The Baltic Sea as a diving destination, we have a lot of wrecks, a lot of potential wrecks to be explored actually. Starting from shallow wrecks, reachable from shore, like 17 meters, easy Rec 1 dives, as well as more advanced destinations, I would say. So whatever your level is, if you'd like to discover Poland as a diving destination, don't hesitate to contact our GUE Poland community, contact myself. I would be super happy to make it happen, to host you and to dive together with you here in Polish waters. So yeah, take care and I hope to see you soon somewhere underwater. Cheers!
All right, great stuff. Thank you very much to GUE Poland. Sorry for the technical difficulties, group, but still great to hear from our friends there and see some of the great activity the Baltic does have, some amazing diving opportunities and a wide range of amazing wrecks. Perhaps in between these two videos, I've got in a few other questions, and one of them kind of dovetails nicely with what Maura was asking about. And they were asking whether we had very many projects going on, and it just brings forward that there were a number of complexities, obviously, with the virus that everybody was dealing with, but we did have a number of great projects that continued on anyway, and now everybody is starting to ramp back up again. And we will be publishing our next issue of Explore, which is going to be our yearly exploration report coming out soon. So we understand everybody's had some challenges, but happy to see people are managing accordingly and getting out there diving as best they can. I think we have now a video from Florida. I think Kirill is coming by to say hello through pre-recorded message from a cave diving site, if I remember correctly.
Hey,
Nico.
Greetings from North Central Florida. My name is Kirill Igorov. I'm a GUE instructor and GUE Cave training administrator, but most importantly, I'm a cave diver and I'm based here in North Central Florida. A member of a small group of divers based in High Springs, Gainesville, and surrounding areas. And I wanted to give a quick update on what we do and what we have done all over the pandemic. So, in the very beginning of coronavirus pandemic, we ended up with most of easily accessible caves closed. Most of the parks were closed. So that promoted us going to less. So, in the very beginning of coronavirus pandemic, we ended up with most of easily accessible caves closed. Most of the parks were closed. So that promoted us going to less known or less easy to get to places, and some of these places also required us to get better in new techniques like side mounting and side mount rebreathers and stuff. So today we are going for yet another dive in one of these locations. It's called Fletcher Spring. A very beautiful place, very small, nice side mount cave that a group of local divers called KUR, Karst in the Water Research, got access to in the very beginning of March. So we were lucky to have something to work in for the whole duration of pandemic. KUR divers met Vincent and Andy Pitkin and Brett Hemphill. Did quite a bit of exploration here and pushed cave by at least, I think, 2,500 feet. And another diver of our group, Adam Hughes, started mapping it, and hopefully we'll get a very precise, detailed map very soon. And I was doing my job as usual, taking photos, trying to photo document as detailed as possible. So today we are back here for yet another photo shoot in one of the more distant, newer areas of this cave. So as I've mentioned before, over the course of pandemic we got access to some new sites, and we also got access to some older sites, just got more persistent in exploring them, like for example Bartek sinks right in pretty much in the heart of High Springs. So we did a lot and we explored a lot, we documented a lot. We'll be happy to share more photos, and I'm sure that we will have maps to show. But most importantly, I would say that we as a group are really waiting for a time when everything will go back to semi-normal and international travel will be open and easy again. So I'm really looking forward to get out of High Springs and go and dive some of the European sites, go back to Mars, and go back hopefully to see some of the European caves, meet all of my friends. And also we are definitely looking for all of you to get back to North Central Florida and dive all of the known sites, and hopefully some of the unknown sites sometime early next year. Conditions are great and getting better. Eagle's Nest is as blue as most of us have seen it. Most of the other caves are looking great, and we're just missing all of you. So let's hope for soon return to normal. Bye.
Okay, great stuff. I think many people don't really realize quite the diversity of caves throughout the state of Florida. So there's really a lot of very interesting caves that many people don't dive, and a lot of different locations. Kirill is a great resource for some of those caves. Many new caves have opened up over the last few years. So there are some pretty interesting locations that many of you who are frequent cave divers probably don't or have not been in the past. So really worth checking some of those areas out. Quite a diversity of activity in the area, and Kirill is in the middle of a lot of the exploration and diving activity in the region. Well, I'm conscious that we've run a bit over, but and I'm conscious that some of the technical difficulties were a little less than stellar, but we apologize for that. Hopefully you've still enjoyed yourselves, and it's been really exciting for me to see all these familiar names popping by, and really nice to talk to a wide range of you all around the world. Those of you who can manage another session, we do have one more session coming up in another 4 hours, or actually another 3 hours. And we have quite a lot of different people joining that as well. So it's mostly new content. We've got a representative from Kelp Tree who's joining us. We've got some folks from Florida coming, from Hungary, from Ontario, from Singapore. We're bringing by Mike Menduno, who's our in-depth editor, who's going to talk to us a little bit about the great activities and some of the different things that he's covering, newsworthy items of interest. We'll look to touch back in, see if we can touch base with our Swedish group, Seattle, wide range of people. So hopefully you'll come and join us. We've got one more session coming up, our third session coming up now in just a few hours. It was great seeing all of you. Thanks for the feedback. Send in your questions if you'd like us to address them in the third time around. And we hope to see you guys actually in person at a dive site near you, but more likely in the next session. Take care, and thanks again. It's really great to have all of you as part of our community.